Past behavior is the number one predictor of future behavior. There will be interviewers that always say no because they're insecure that this person's going to take their job because they're afraid of hiring better than them. Humans like human interaction, and AI is an amazing tool to make us for us to leverage to be more efficient and effective, but it should not replace the human element where it is relational based. Are you going to push for me? Are you going to fight for me as my recruiter? If I need 20K more than the offer of AI, sorry, that doesn't fall within the ban.
Yeah.
I would also say that women are less likely to advocate for themselves, and this is unfortunate. And so, one of my key rules is you don't hire for what you need today, you hire for.
Welcome to the Future Minds podcast.
Hello, welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm joined by Jaidin McCann, the founder and CEO of Jasper Consultancy, a people-first executive search and human capital advisory firm that works with organizations around the world to build leadership teams that actually drive results. Jaidin has a reputation for helping companies rethink how they hire, develop, and retain leaders in a world where talent strategy is often the difference between scaling successfully and stalling completely. Jaidin, it's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, Jake.
Before Jasper Consultancy existed, what was happening in your career or life that made you think there's a better way to do this?
Oh my gosh, so much. I will say the history of my career, I have helped to found and scale companies from scratch for other people. So I got a really good look into what worked really well, what maybe didn't work so well, and learned from their biggest fail forward moments. And finally, I was twiddling my thumbs saying, what am I going to do with the rest of my career? And thought, I'm going to build my own company for myself. And so I got to take all of the learnings that I've learned through scaling and growing. What was four other companies at that time.
Wow.
And yeah, so I got a lot of experience in this, but I didn't necessarily get the cash out and the equity side when they were
Hmm.
acquired. Um, and so really got to build with purpose and with intention around people. And I think my big frustration in corporate America was that while every company says they're relational and not transactional, they're transactional. And I care about people, right? It's the reason I went into HR. It's the reason I became a recruiter. I want to help people find their dream roles where they wake up passionate every day about the company and the projects they're working on, the team they're working with. And maybe I care about people a little too much for corporate America, but it really shows in what we do. And we actually just won the most people focused executive search firm corporate excellence award. And to me, it was a huge
Congratulations.
honor. Thank you. But it was a huge honor to show that I don't just talk the talk, but it's seen in my company culture, my recruiters, and we walk the walk. And I think it's hard to tell people your big differentiator is that we are actually people focused and relational. But when clients work with us, that's the big feedback we get is, oh my gosh, like you actually care about me as a leader, us as a company, our success. And it's a huge testament to what we do.
Amazing. And do you think there was like a specific moment that kind of pushed you to build something of your own? Was it one client's feedback? Was it seeing someone excel in the way that you kind of wanted them to excel in their career?
Yeah, I mean, partially it was me excelling the way I wanted to in my career. They gave me the confidence and full transparency as well in executive search. We work with a lot of CEOs, right, that are
Hmm.
hiring executives. And I think I've been an executive from a young age. I remember I'll tell this story. I was 20 years old and I was an HR leader. I was doing an HRIS implementation and leading that. And
Hmm.
I couldn't get into our in-person meeting because I wasn't 21 and they put it in a bar. So I had to text
Really?
them and say, hey, this is super embarrassing. I know what my title is, but I can't get into this bar for this meeting. Can we meet across the street? So I've been very fortunate in my career to be in those rooms, driving strategy, being able to make those decisions. All for that was for a startup hotel we helped launch. I was employee number one. Um,
Wow.
and since then, I would say I've gotten to meet, especially in executive search, a lot of founders, a lot of successful CEOs and executives.
Hmm.
And part of it was, oh my gosh, you're so much more of a mess than I thought you would be or were, right? You put this picture in
Really?
your mind
Yeah.
when you're young. These are
Hmm.
high caliber, very intelligent people, hardworking people.
Mm.
And I don't know if things get messier because they're taking on much more responsibility and stress, or if they've always been that way and they just did something for themselves and advocated for themselves and pushed through. But it gave me confidence saying, okay, if you can do this, I can definitely do this.
Yeah.
Um, and then just seeing the way the world worked and watching other people be really successful that I could say, hey, I'm actually outperforming this person and they're very successful in what they did. I believe in my ability to do this. I've scaled companies for other people and they're clearly bringing me in to do this for the value I provide. Why would I
Mm,
not provide that same value to myself? And there's
100%.
been learning experiences along the way, right? I got brought in to do a very specific piece of that scaling. But when you become a founder and your own business owner, you're now everything to everyone, right? Your
Yeah.
accounting, your finance, your sales, business development. So I didn't have to do finance and accounting and sales and business development of those companies I helped to scale and launch. So it is definitely a learning curve, but
Hmm.
I mean, tons of founders everywhere have been able to learn those things and be successful. So why not yourself?
I mean, the amount of things you would have actually picked up as you were going along as well, just being around those kind of people all the time, it must have been some experience. And from the age of 20 as well, I don't think many people kind of had that exposure from such a young age, which is insane. Did you
I
always know you were
agree.
going to be in like the leadership pathway, or was that kind of it just happened as it went along, or was it ideal?
I did. I did. Not so young, but in college, I knew I wanted to be an executive longer term. I
Hmm.
didn't know what I wanted to be an executive of, though, right? Like, is it marketing? Is it HR? Is it like you can't just graduate college
Hmm.
and become an executive unless you, I guess, start your own company.
Yeah.
Or I guess we're weird in my case where that did happen. So I actually triple specialized in business administration, leadership management, and human resources because at first I thought human resources would be a good add-on to me as
Hmm.
a manager, right? If I have the HR background and knowledge, a lot of work that HR does is with helping train and develop leaders, giving them, letting them know what they can and cannot do. Um, and so I thought it would be a value add to get me hired as a manager. I never thought that my career path would actually go HR and I would become a manager through HR, and especially so quickly. And I've been very blessed with amazing opportunities at an early age. But I would also say a little spoiled because I went from, driving strategy, being in the room, creating that impact, having, hiring people to dialing for dollars as a recruiter after
Hmm.
that to get more experience in recruiting specifically outside of just HR. And I missed being in the room. And I feel like there's a little bit of arrogance and entitlement that comes with that, where you feel like, okay, I'm a day-to-day recruiter. I'm picking up the phone, making X amount of calls, doing the X amount of submittals. Um, but before I was driving strategy and leading these projects and these teams,
Hmm.
setting the KPIs, right? So I actually founded Jasper initially to build HR and talent acquisition teams from scratch for companies because that's what I had done before for other companies while
Hmm.
recruiting simultaneously. And then I started working, building other recruiting firms. And then I went back to Jasper and rebranded it later in my career as an executive search firm because my career went the executive search path.
Wow. Quite a career. Quite a movement that you've done. It
I've been
sounds like a
busy.
lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, you really have been. And I mean, you kind of starting off from the CEO side and then actually having to go back to the nitty-gritty of actually doing the recruitment on hand full time. So congrats to you for doing so well. And clearly you're still blemishing, which is amazing stuff to see.
Thank you.
So I know you work with a lot of leadership and teams, as you've mentioned. What would you say some of the patterns you kind of repeatedly see that go wrong with the businesses when they're trying to scale?
Oh gosh. I would say the patterns depend on the size of the company. For
Hmm.
example, those founders that are looking to scale early, right? Seed stage, Series A, some even Series B.
What
I
would
have
you
a lot
say
of
that would go in that category, for example? So like 1 to 10 employees, or would it be a revenue, the amount they're kind of earning per year?
typically I'd say it's the amount of funding and the funding rounds that they've done, but
Hmm.
the amount of revenue they tend to do as well as the number of employees can go hand in hand.
Hmm.
I would say early building out your teams have very different problems than enterprises.
Yeah.
Um, but with that, I would say early founders, my conversations are more consultative around what does your interview process look like? Who's hiring for the roles? They don't know. Okay, what are you measuring in each of your interviews? And they're like, what do you mean measuring? And I'm like, well, are you just going to have the same, hi, how are you? Tell me about your background and resume. Okay, great. I think you might be a fit. I like your personality. Move on and have them have that same conversation, 3 times.
Hmm.
Or are we going to structurally measure for different things and have a process? And so being able to guide them around that, my clients have claimed that's very helpful for them, especially as they're a first time founder or maybe a second time founder, but they're still learning too, right? Just like I specialize in talent, but have never done accounting and sales and business development and have an area to grow in. They have talent and HR as an area to grow in. So why not come together and support versus larger organizations? My feedback is more around I would say process that really holds them back. I see a lot of companies doing, oh my gosh, like 11 plus interviews. Even
As
actually
in
Google,
like one stage, like, as in just to get through to the final stage.
yeah, like 11 interviews to get to, yeah, final interviews, like interview number 11. It's unnecessary.
Jesus, yeah, that is
It's
crazy.
it's unnecessary. Um, I see just a lot of different things in terms of there will be interviewers that always say no because they're insecure that this person's going to take their job because they're afraid of hiring better than them. And
Wow.
I think that that shows insecurity as a leader, and we're all insecure in different areas of our lives for sure. But if that person you truly believe has amazing potential to do transformational work for your company and do the job that's the job to be done that you're hiring for, why would you not be super excited about that person? Train and develop them, pipeline them to take your place as you get promoted, and then train them on all the mistakes you've had to make so that
Mhm.
not only will they be as good of a leader as you when they move up, but a better leader than you were when you move up. And I think if we can have this humility and transparency as leaders and say, hey, you can be absolutely better than me. I want you to be better than me because it means
Mhm.
you're not only going to be better than I was in this role, you're going to be a better leader than I was in this role with me training you on the leadership aspect. And it just feeds the company, right? Exponentially.
Yeah,
But I think a lot of leaders, especially in enterprise, get nervous that they're going to get let go and that person's going to be promoted into their place.
yeah.
And then it holds back the quality of talent, and you find yourself hiring less qualified people due to your own personal insecurity. So, more work to be done there, but I've seen that commonly.
That's really interesting. Interesting you say that because I can imagine how that would work in the enterprise level, but the fact that it still actually happens, you'd kind of think it doesn't because you think you'd always want the best of the best to come in to take the role to move the company forward, essentially. Um, so yeah,
You would
that's really
think
interesting. Yeah, you would
it's
think.
funny, the things we know on paper and the things that actually get carried out and implemented within organizations, we like to say they should be the same, but they tend to look very different.
Wow. So then, in that sense, when going through the interview process with some of these candidates, how would you tell the difference between someone who's good at interviews and someone who's actually good at the role? Because I feel like that must be some level of an issue, especially with those kind of positions, because they are the most senior in the company as well.
Absolutely. And you see this more so on the sales side. Sales business development guys are so much better at talking themselves up and selling themselves.
Uh-huh.
And you actually find that the more humble ones are usually better at actual sales and doing the job.
Oh.
Difference, CFOs tend to be very straightforward. Hey, this is what I do. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not good at. It just depends on the personality types. I'm generalizing here,
Hmm.
but I have very specific questions that we ask, and we have psychological questions. We have behavioral analysis, and also just asking questions on their past performance. Because as far today, past behavior is the number one predictor of future behavior,
Hmm.
right? And so, hey, tell me about a time when you did X. And if they can tell you about it and dive deeper, right? Ask detailed questions on it because people who are lying or exaggerating will start to lose frame in those questions when you dive into the details. So,
Okay.
and it's about their personal experience, right? You and I should be able to talk about our personal experience in
Hmm.
depth and at length. We lived it.
Yeah.
So when they start to lose the details a little bit and get a little foggy, also there's language and executives applying for roles. Be careful of this in your resumes as well. But there's language on, well, we did this or my team did this. And it's, okay, great. What did you do? Right? Did you lead your team to do this? How did you lead them and align them on that vision? Right?
Hmm.
But a lot of it, you can tell, are they a hands-on leader or are they a delegator? It's going to say, hey, this is a strategy, go figure it out and implement it, and leave it to the, directors, senior managers to go and figure it out.
Hmm.
And so it depends on what the company needs as well. And so one of my key rules is you don't hire for what you need today, you hire for where you want to be 5 years from now. And is that leader someone who is capable of coming in where you're at today and getting you to where you're at in the future? Because what we do see a lot is, oh, well, this is the need I have right now, and I need someone to fill this. The problem is, where is that room for growth? Where's the challenge for them? I would also say that women are less likely to advocate for themselves. And this is unfortunate. There's lots of seminars on this. I've taught workshops on this.
Hmm.
Men are more likely to boast about their accomplishments, and women are more likely to be humble and to give service to their team, which is relational and supportive. And we love this. But if
Hmm.
you're not going to brag about yourself, who is?
Yeah.
Right. And so, one thing I would advise to women in interviews is, and I say this to everyone, be confident in what you know and humble in what you don't. And that will get you so far. You don't need to lie and over exaggerate, but you also do need to be confident, right? You don't need to brag. Don't be, don't be terrible about
Don't be
it.
that person. Yeah.
Don't be cocky about it. But if you're good at what you do, be
Hmm.
confident in that and own that and advocate for yourself.
Definitely. I agree with that 100%. I think you have to, especially when you're pushing for a position. There's nothing worse than if you can see someone doesn't believe what they're even saying about themselves. Because if you don't believe in what you're saying, how are you going to then lead an entire team or an organization to? And I like what you said about you hire for where someone will get you within 5 years. That's a really a important aspect, I think, of looking at your hiring process because it's all good and done to say, oh yeah, I want someone to do this, that. I currently need fixing, but once that's fixed, then what are they going to do? So I agree in that
Yeah.
aspect of, yeah.
Yeah, and it's shown, I mean, and most recruiting firms, and I'll say executive search firms, but I believe recruiting firms in general do not do this. And that's what pays us dividends and why clients keep coming back to us and why even when um we lose a role, I've had CEOs actually come back to me and say, "Hey, yes, we had my board or my VC firm made me give this role to someone else, but you stood out and I want you for my personal search in the job market."
Wow.
And even things like that are a testament. But I will say, hiring that way, right now, recruiters face problems of I submit over a bunch of people, I get no's and candidate feedback, maybe
Hmm.
not enough candidate feedback, and it's transactional, right? Like I'm putting people over the fence to the hiring managers giving feedback back. The problem should never be these people aren't getting accepted by the hiring manager. And what I love about Jasper and our work, and I have multiple clients who I can introduce you to who will tell you this, but they say, oh my gosh, I don't know who to pick. They're all so perfect. And it's because they're able to get them where they want to go. It's not a transactional, what do I need now? It's these guys have literally done exactly this scale or growth or whatever it might be
Hmm.
for competitors, for other companies. And now the problem isn't the hiring manager is only accepting, 3 out of 5 of the people I sent over, but it's actually there's so many good candidates here that they don't know who to pick. And the last one I actually just filled, I sent over one, the very first one, and they're like, he's so perfect, he's it. And I was like, well, that's a really great ratio for me. But I was like, do you want anyone to compare him to? And they're like, yeah, that seems fair. Send over another to compare him to. And they interviewed that guy as well. And they're like, oh my gosh, he's so perfect. We don't know who to pick. Um, the client even before that had 3 people, and she was like, this is amazing, but I don't know who to pick. And I had to consult with her and say, okay, well, there's pluses and minuses to each one. Where are your strategic priorities and goals, and who best aligns with that? But that's the problems you should be having,
That's
right?
a
Not
good problem to have. Yeah, a
it's a
very good
great
problem.
problem to have rather than I'm sending people over the fence, they send some back, some go through. That to
Hmm.
me is very transactional
Yeah.
versus knowing exactly what they want. And that starts by asking the right questions in the beginning,
Hmm.
guiding and advising them on what are they measuring for? What is that interview process? Where do they want to be in 5 years? And then asking the right questions to candidates to make sure that they are the right fit for the role and not just job fit wise, but culture fit, leadership style fit, right?
Hmm.
There's so much that goes into it that transactional recruiters will say, oh, resume, job description match, I'm sending them over.
Yeah, that's not enough. Not for those kind of roles, especially.
Which, fine, keep doing it. I'll happily take all of your clients.
I think deservedly by the way it's going for you, so I think they should. With stuff like that as well, because it's piquing my interest quite a bit, because I guess it is quite psychological when doing those kind of interviews as well. Do you use anything like the Myers-Briggs testing to get like a personality type, or I don't know if they have it in the US, but over here we have this thing called like Belbin, and they come into your workplace and they basically score all the individuals, and there'll be 9 different categories, and then you can see where maybe your organization is under or over in a certain aspect. So they might have tons of good team workers, but then they haven't got any decision makers per se. Do you use anything like that in your, I guess, in your
Yes.
precepts?
Yes, we do. I mean, there's a ton of great tools out there. We use Predictive Index. I'm a certified Predictive Index partner, and I love it because it shows, if you're a startup, for example, and your entire team's in the agility and innovation quarter. That makes sense. You're
Hmm.
starting a company, right? Innovative, let's go forward, let's drive this. But as you begin to scale and become mid-size, now you have no one in process and precision. You have no one in the other things, boxes, I should say. So with that, what we can do, and with that, we can look at the team, and it does, I will say, I charge extra to do an entire team panel and compare the hire to the team analysis. But what we can also do is just do it on the candidates coming in and fit those in as well. With that, it also helps prevent bias because people tend to hire like-minded people, right?
Yeah.
If you're a go-getter, a doer, a fast-oriented person, and you're in that innovation and agility box, you're more likely to hire other people like that because you like those traits. They're traits you have yourself,
Hmm.
but that might not be what you need, right?
Yeah.
Accountants, they don't tend to fall in that box. And that's good. We need accountants,
Hmm.
right? And so, with that, when you go to hire, giving that consulting and that feedback to say, hey, of course you're having this problem. They're always correlated. Of course you're having this problem. You don't have anybody in this box to solve that. And you're hiring people and choosing to move forward with people in these boxes. But what this role is, you need this person.
Mm.
And so, of course, it's been frustrating. Of course, you're not finding the right people. Of course, you're making poor hires of people who are because they're in the wrong or they have personalities that don't correspond and
Yeah.
aren't driven, right? What they want to do, what they love to do, their area of genius isn't what the role needs or is. And you want to hire people who fit that box because now they're excited about what they're doing. They're loving it. You
Yeah.
may not love it, right? We don't all love accounting and finance. We don't all love sales, but those people do. And so hire accordingly.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I actually listened to a podcast recently by Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett, and he was mentioning something like that about his team and how important it is to actually hire people different from yourself because you'll end up getting so much more out of them than you would if you hire a bunch of people who are the exact same as yourself.
Oh my gosh,
Essentially, everyone
yes.
does the same thing, so then it kind of
Yes.
clashes in the end.
I could hire an accountant that's just like me, but they'll probably be a terrible accountant and hate being an accountant. I know I would be a terrible accountant. I'm just not detail oriented. It's not the way I operate. Um,
Yeah.
but with that, then the question, once you do that, becomes how do you lead and align a culture of all different people? How do you
Mhm.
communicate with each person, right? How do you align everyone who has different motivations? And
Yeah.
so that's then where the leadership mindset shifts once you've hit that first stage.
Yeah, because culture is important, especially in workforces, especially in larger workforces. You do want to keep all your employees happy. And there's
Yes.
nothing better than actually enjoying where you work rather than thinking, oh, I've got to go to work again. It's
Well,
completely
it
different.
increases engagement and retention, performance, right? You're paying less from the lack of turnover. So that decreases costs. You're getting more output out of your employees because they love what they do and they're staying and gaining tenure, being stronger in their position and the company. And so you're increasing output and performance, you're decreasing costs. I would claim that HR is more of a profit center than a cost center. We just get a cost center rep. But when we do our jobs right and well, people should love what they do and be passionate about what they're doing. And that
Mhm.
in turn leads to an increase in performance. And culture is built whether you strategically do that or not, right? It naturally happens. So you might as well be strategic about it and use it to your advantage.
Definitely. Well put. Very well put. I guess on the basis of culture as well, the world is changing as we know it in today's day and age. How do you think AI is going to be implemented within the recruiting realm? And where do you think they're still definitely going to need that human side and interactions?
Great question. And I'll say, I've seen AI implemented. I've seen entire recruiting firms that are all AI. Their sales team is all AI bots, and then their recruiters that go in and fill are all AI. And these companies are making pretty good money right now. And it's 100% transactional, it's 100% a numbers game, right?
Hmm.
But it's working for them. I would say in the long run, though, they'll lose out to people with the personal touch. Humans like human interaction, and AI is an amazing tool to make us for us to leverage to be more efficient and effective,
Hmm.
but it should not replace the human element, such as recruiting, such as sales, where it is relational based. Because if an AI bot gives you an offer and I give you an offer, and the AI bot says, "Hey, we're going to give you a $40,000 sign-on bonus," but I say, "Hey, I know you're trying to buy a house with your new wife. I'm going to give you a $40,000 sign-on to help pay the down payment on your house." Which offer do you like more? Because this company shows you they care about your personal life and your personal achievement and goals. And this company, it's the same amount of money. It does the same thing in the end, but there's a psychological thing that happens, right? And
Yeah.
so you win out with the human element. And AI can replace a lot, but I do think it's a tool to be leveraged. I think, especially in executive search, it should be in recruiting as well. Anything with soft skills that require emotional intelligence it shouldn't replace, at least not for a very, very long time.
It can't replace. I don't think yet. And I think those that are trying to replace it too quickly, as you said, I think they are going to struggle because
Yeah.
then it becomes who do I speak to if something goes wrong, and then it might start off well, but yeah, as you say, in the long run, I can't see it being a sustainable way of moving forward. And I guess even for those who are actually being recruited in the first place, they'd probably rather speak to someone who actually kind of wants to push to actually get them on board somewhere and
Yeah.
help
Are
them.
you going to push for me? Are you going to fight for me as my recruiter? If I need
Mhm.
20K more than the offer, are you going to go to the hiring manager and fight that battle for me to secure my role, right? Are you an advocate and a partner? AI, sorry, that doesn't fall within the ban,
Yeah.
right?
Not going to be able to do that, unfortunately. Sorry. Moving on. But I guess so. Then, which parts of strategy would you say should be automated or can be automated to an extent?
I mean, I would say in terms of coming up with a strategy that should not be AI related. But I will say implementation, execution, operational efficiency, right? I mean,
Mhm.
my CRM, I use Read AI. It takes all the notes for my calls. I can then put it into a custom GPT to put them in the format company wide we want them in. And now you don't have to take notes on the call. You can spend time really building that relationship. All the notes are formatted. You just upload the transcript into the custom chat GPT, puts them all, copy that, puts it in the CRM, moves on, right? It
Mhm.
makes us so much more efficient. Automated outreaches, it's a necessary evil we do. Um, there's a lot of things that it helps push forward. I also
Mhm.
think consulting, if you don't know the answer, you can ask ChatGPT, Gemini, right? You can ask a ton of questions to find that out rather than now paying $250 for somebody's time for them to tell you that. Be careful, right? AI is not always accurate, so don't maybe ask it a ton of legal questions in depth.
Yeah.
But at a bare basic, right, I can say, hey, in Washington State, uh, what is the I don't know, non-solicit or non-compete clause, right? And so it'll come back with a response and it'll let me know I did not need to pay for my lawyer's time. So sorry, lawyers and a ton of consultants as well. But it is a huge relief to have access to information at your
Yeah.
fingertips so quickly.
Agreed. Definitely. I think, as you said, multiple times, it's the humans, we're going to need them regardless. I know a lot of people are worried, thinking maybe things will change to the point where they'll take over everything. I can't see it getting to that stage, especially not for another 30 years. Maybe by the time robots and super AI out, that could be a different story. But definitely it's a tool to leverage against the skills that you already kind of have. And it just makes everything so much easier moving forward, which is definitely a thing that if you're not on it now, you're already behind. So make sure you're kind of on it to a certain degree.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Be leveraging AI, learn how to use AI, how to implement it in your business for efficiency. You should be knowing what large language models are and what tools are out there, which ones are best for what, right? Marketing versus,
Mhm.
advice versus writing copy for you. Um, but just take everything with a grain of salt, right? Even the copy that's written for you, for your website, for your LinkedIn posts, it'll write it all, but make sure it's still in your voice. You can train that. Make sure you read it and you review it, you edit it before you post it, because you can set it up to just auto post for you, which saves
Mhm.
time. But what happens if it says something you actually disagree with?
Yeah,
Right? And so you always want to make sure that human element is there.
yeah, agreed. I think as well, when I speak with any of the LLMs, I question it more than anything. I have real long conversations and I'll be like, but why? Is this correct or isn't that? Could it be this? And I
Yep.
think it's important not to just take it first time and be like, yeah, this is great. Let me use this for my work in whatever sense you're doing. And like you said, there are tons of tools out there and still growing. It's flying like crazy at the moment. And like I think I mentioned to you the other day, I went to I got invited to a tech show in London, which was amazing as a special guest. And I've been going there for maybe 4 to 5 years now. And the scary thing about it was it's changed to the point of there was barely anything tech anymore. The entire place was just filled with data center equipment, cooling systems, security systems for actually building these data centers rather than actually tech people doing tech things, robotics or anything new and innovative. It was slightly disappointing, but it was a big shock in kind of how it's been in the past compared to now, essentially.
Yeah. Absolutely. The world is moving at a crazy fast rate, and even not a, we don't know where it's going, right? AI is moving faster than we thought it could. I was at a conference with the chief data and AI officer at Microsoft, and he's like, "We accomplished our 2027 goals in 2026." Like it's moving so
Wow.
fast. And so when you think about data governance and cybersecurity for AI, how do you be proactive when you don't know officially where it's going because it's
Yeah,
moving so fast?
true. A lot of questions around it. But thank you. That's been amazing so far. One final thought, I guess, before we end up today is what kind of belief about leadership have you changed your mind about most over the years since you started your own business?
Oh gosh. I used to really drink the Kool-Aid of we have to make decisions in favor of the business over people because
Mhm.
without that, we won't have a business to employ all the people, right? You hear that common saying a lot. But to me, what I've realized is that if you make decisions in the best interest of your people and employees, and you're honest and transparent with them and allow them to be a part of those decisions as well, because we all want jobs, we hopefully love our companies, we you get buy-in from them. If you prioritize your people, you'll never be in a position to where your business is going to fail because we all work to keep the business going to perform better. Now, that doesn't mean go pay everybody $1 million when, you don't have the money to do so because you're prioritizing your people.
Mhm.
But it is have honest conversations and say, hey, the top performer is right here. You perform under there. I want to be able to give you this promotion or to pay you X amount more money, but this is what I need from you in order to get there, right? It's not a no, we can't afford it. It's a, hey, this is what we need to do together. Or, hey, we need the budget to be able to do this. We're working on a few initiatives that'll grow our revenue. Do you want to take initiative and help out with one of these to showcase your leadership abilities and to drive that revenue to help pay for your promotion? Working together, right? And so I get very frustrated when I hear you choose the business over people because the people are your business.
Yeah,
And when you prioritize them, you should never have gotten to that point. If you get to the point where it's the business over people, you've already done so much wrong to get there.
agreed. Very well put. And it's actually someone else who we've had on this show has actually said something very similar. So it's nice to see that you guys are all kind of thinking in the same pattern and
Oh, good.
wavelength.
I'd love to meet them. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I
Melanie Parrish, she was HR as well.
I love it. You love good people.
Yeah, I agree. I think people are so important. It's such an underrated thing to look for, especially in the recruitment world, but and for organizations that are growing. But thank you. Thank you so much for all your input. It's really insightful to hear from you. And I just wish the continued success of your organization, and I can't see how it's not going to succeed in the coming future going forward.
Well, thank you, Jake. I appreciate you having me.